So my experience working with Bernie Perryman, I'm so lucky because her first day as chair was my first day as the president of the chamber. She got stuck with the newbie, but I got stuck with the best chamber president ever. She was supportive and showed me the ropes. She's challenged me throughout this year, and we've accomplished so much together. There were so many highlights working with Bernie, but I think the best were our 2 trips to Washington, D.C. this year. We traveled with the Minnesota Chamber and took a chamber delegation from our community to D.C., about 17 people, and we had a great time. She has great ideas, such great motivation, and I always call her the little Energizer Bunny, which is funny because she owns Batteries Plus, but she never quits, and she's hard to keep up with, but she's really helped us do some great things this last year.
Some of the highlights I have with Allison is putting together the policies for hiring and firing, salaries, things that are not normally fun to do. She put some impact fund behind it. So it was not dreadful to come together with a meeting to go over something that's boring per se. She always put some pizzazz into making a rule or regulation, and then also making sense out of it. After the board meeting, she was one that always said, hey, let's all go for a beverage somewhere and continue the meeting in a fun atmosphere and then learn more personally about all of us. So the fun fact is she cares enough about the board members to ask them questions and want to socialize and network with them after the board meetings.
One thing I really appreciated about working with Christy is that she was a business owner, and so she brought that perspective to our board. I am not a business owner, even though I represented the company I worked for, but she was a business owner, and that always gives a little bit different perspective, and I can appreciate the different thought process for her input into board activities. And you could see that someone in that position just has a different point of view and valuable contributions that are presented when they know that something will affect this business community from the perspective of owning a business themselves. It's always fun to see Christy down at Summertime by George. I know she's also active with the St. Cloud Rotary and volunteers in the community in many capacities in addition to what she's done with the chamber. So it's kind of fun to catch her down at the beer garden at Summertime by George.
Working with John Bryant was a great experience. His background and his expertise and experience just always intrigued me. He is a top-notch leader at GeoComm and a very big community leader. So when he talks about his experiences in front of the whole chamber board, people listen. It's almost like E.F. Hutton. When John talks, people listen. He spent more time on the highway, traveling back and forth from St. Cloud to his home and home to St. Cloud, which is in the suburbs of Minneapolis. I don't remember the city, but most of his work was done in the car. Every time I did call him or needed him, he was in the car driving back and forth. So I think a fun fact about him is that he had a traveling office and answered like he was in his real office, and you could never tell it apart. Some of the highlights of working with Willie Jett has to be when we had board meetings, because he would bring humor to a topic, but then also if it was a very important and critical decision we'd have to make, he was always logical and also curious and attentive to making the decision with a team. He just knew how to ask the right questions at the right time. It was always interesting because he always came with a story, with a moral to it. And so when you're the superintendent of the school system, you do have a lot of stories from he had to jump on a bus during COVID to drive to meeting the kids at the door to let them in the new school. So it was always an experience and always a great story, and it always was impactful to every member on the board.
My experience working with John is that he is the first person to offer help to volunteer, as well as to take on any new initiative and support the entire staff at Visit Greater St. Cloud. He is charismatic and funny, and so every time that we have interactions, he brings this life and this energy to the room that fills our cup as well as the board's cup, and asks really great questions, as well as has a huge heart. So he cares a lot about the travel and tourism industry, and that lends really well for being one of the board chairs.
One of the highlights in getting to know Jason and being on the board was traveling with him to Washington, D.C. on the Chamber's annual D.C. trip. Jason was a veteran, I was someone new, and he took me under his wing a little bit to give me some guidance on how the trip worked, and we just had a really good time and really emphasized the importance of governmental affairs and the Chamber's role in governmental affairs in our community. Jason was very good at bringing agreement to the board members. If there are diverging points of view, he had a real skill at bringing everybody on the same page. What's not fun about a guy who sells beverages for a living?
So my experience working with Rachael has been really fantastic. It's been a lot of fun. Seeing how she's been able to lead the group, lead the committee has been really an interesting time for me. I've enjoyed seeing her leadership and seeing how she's brought the group together, and the way that we've been able to come back after COVID and all the stuff that happened with that. It really just has been a wonderful experience. And I think everybody that's been involved with the location committee and Chamber Connection, we have a great time, and she has been the cheerleader and the fun leader for this past year, keeping us on task, but also doing it with a lot of fun.
My experience working with Kayle has been always amazing. She's a sweetheart. She'll do anything for you or for the chamber. And she's a go-getter. She's organized, which I need because I'm a little spontaneous or a little wild, so to say. Her ideas that she brought to the chamber meetings of, networking, questions, and also had the idea of bringing an idea that would be driven towards the host, but a personal experience that each person had. Going through the pandemic was never easy for anyone, so hosting or being chair during the pandemic, and she handled it really well. Numbers got really, really low, and then our goal together was building the numbers back up to 70, 80 people. She makes sure we're as organized and they have as much fun as possible.
He's probably got more orange shirts than anybody I know. I think if anyone were to think of Sam Leeser, I would imagine the first thing they think is the guy in the orange shirt. He was friendly. He was able to take me under his wing, let me know that he'll show me everything I need to know and follow his lead, which how involved Sam is and knowing what he's accomplished, I felt really good being able to be a part of that. Coming out of COVID was kind of exciting to be a part of the committee, seeing what that looks like, using that new space, and being able to actually fill all of our spots and put on some really good shows was exciting. Being able to create our member experience in our new space that we've been hosting Chamber, and I think everyone's really enjoyed his sense of humor and what he's brought to the table. And again, he's involved in so much. How can you not appreciate what he does?
Well, Colonel Frank is my chair, and he's absolutely wonderful. He's great. He's got a good spirit, where I tend to be all business, and he's like, oh, you can smooth over the edges. He's like that. So we're good opposites. We are co-chairs by default. They asked Colonel to be chair, and he said, I don't want to do that unless Cindy does it with me. So the story goes. Last year, I considered a great success. There was snow. It was our first year back after COVID, and we were really about what Farm Show was going to do, but it was a phenomenal success. It's been great being a co-chair with Colonel Frank these last 3-4 years. So this will be our last hurrah, and yeah, it's been really fun.
I've had the opportunity to work with Cindy Battleson on the Farm Show for 3 years now, and it is a great experience. I'm so excited that she has stepped up and become the chair. She has reorganized the layout for the booths several times, and that is kind of her expertise. I mean, she really lines it up so that we don't have similar vendors next to each other, and she also lines it up so that the move in and the move out works well. Working with Laura, I think they make a great team. She's very organized. She runs a great meeting. There's not a lot of excess that you have to cut out of things. She is really good with people, and she lets you know exactly what she's thinking. There's never a question in my mind what Cindy's thinking. Thank you, Cindy.
So my experience working with Chris Nilsson has really been a pleasurable one. I knew Chris as an acquaintance prior to joining the Business Development Council, and Chris always had lots of positive energy and was really pleasant to be around. And so when we were on the council together and Chris asked me to be her vice chair, I was really excited just to learn under her. So as with any committee, council, you always have lots of challenges and changes. And something that Chris brought to the table that I really found was a benefit was she's experienced. She's a good leader. She's able to take people that, let's say, are new to something and really make them feel engaged and get them involved. Chris is really an open book. When you talk to her and really get to know her, she's not afraid to share different aspects of her life, whether it's personal or just kind of lighthearted. And with that, I've really enjoyed getting to know Chris with my time with her on the BDC, and really just happy that I had this opportunity to work with her.
One of the highlights of working with Rachael is the zest that she has for her career and marketing in general. You can tell she's just very passionate on the topic, and it is a fun thing to be a part of at those monthly marketing committee meetings because you do leave sort of reinvigorated about marketing in general. One of the accomplishments that Rachael led the marketing committee through in the past year has been the launch of the new chamber website. So she has spent time with the committee reviewing the mock-ups, providing relevant feedback. She's always got a really great anecdote. I've learned a lot about her, including that she cleans deer in her kitchen, which is a fun tidbit that came up after probably in the November or December meeting around that deer hunting time. I would not have pegged Rachael as a deer huntress, but she is.
So my experience with working with Jim Beck is that I've learned that he can chair from anywhere. Literally anywhere. Some of the highlights with working with Jim is he's given me free reign with the membership division. Basically, hands-off leadership with encouraging emails. Some of the fun things that I have learned about Jim in the past year is that he loves to travel. They love to travel everywhere, but specifically it seems Disney World. And if he ever needs someone else to bring on that Disney World trip, I'm raising my hand right now. Pick me, pick me. So I appreciate the opportunity.
My experience working with Jodi was great. She's very laid back, easy to work with, and she also knows how to get stuff done and stays very organized, which worked well for this particular program. One of the biggest highlights of working with Jodi was actually the last day of the leadership program, graduation day. We took some time to have the class reflect on their experience in the program and hearing the amazing things that the class had to say about their time in the program. One of the biggest accomplishments I think that Jodi navigated us through was COVID. It wasn't as prevalent in this last year during the leadership class, but it still was around, and we did have an uptick in the winter month. What people probably don't know is Jodi is a crier. She is one of the funniest people I know, and we had a lot of laughs together. But on that last day when the class gave us a gift as their leaders, the waterworks started, and she lost it.
My experience working with Linda was fantastic. She's one of the most organized, prepared people I've ever had the pleasure to work with. She knows a ton of people and made my job very easy when it came to helping her plan events and running our group next. Her attitude, I mean, she always comes in with a bright smile on, very easy to talk to, very welcoming to all of our new members. Her energy's fantastic. I just love being around her and following her as a leader. I think she does a great job. We really focused on trying to grow and retain membership this year, and she was very proactive in doing that. Something fun about Linda, I know she's big into cribbage. She plays in a cribbage league, so somebody better take her on and try to see if they can get some money from her.
Eric led our committee this year to having one of the best years we've ever had for fundraising for the Chamber Open. So he did an excellent job just taking the reins and really making sure that we filled sponsorships, we filled golfers, we filled prize boards, we filled all the pieces that we needed to really make the day go as smooth as possible, and obviously bring a big chunk of money in for the Chamber. He's just super passionate and loves to give back. He's got a strong willingness to help out in any way he can, and really puts all of his effort into the things that he does. Congratulations, Eric. You deserve your time in the spotlight today. I'm super happy for you and look forward to potentially golfing with you this year and hopefully winning it again.
My experience working with Patrick was nothing short of amazing. He is just a wonderful human being and supportive and kind and caring and amazing. He is able to coach, direct, without coming across as anything other than being supportive and easy to work with. Some of the fun things I've learned about Patrick with working with him is that one is he collects koozies. And he's got hundreds of them. So if you are in marketing and you want to get rid of koozies, Patrick's your guy. The other thing is he's got a Santa Bear collection, and it's super cool.
I think some of the greatest things Jenna and the BIG committee did while we had that as a part of the chamber is we did things that really had never been done before. We had done bus tours. We'd really engaged with our younger members. We talked about the mystery night out that we've done a number of times. So it was things that had never been seen, never been done. And quite frankly, we had no idea how it was going to work out. And I think one of the most rewarding things is we would try some things. And I would think by and large, you talk to anyone who was on the BIG or had gone to one of the events that we had put on, and they were really successful. Jenna's just a great advocate for the chamber. She isn't one of those people that's necessarily always front and center, but she's behind the scenes working her tail off, always willing to get involved, always willing to participate, and you could always count on her and doing a great job. We had a ton of fun on the BIG committee. Working with Jenna this year has been an awesome experience. So our Star Celebration group is kind of like being a third grade teacher where you've got a bunch of juveniles, sorry guys, it's true, that get together at 7:30 in the morning to kind of talk about the meeting and kind of plan for a yearly event. And she's been able to keep us on task and kind of bring you a really fun program that hopefully you're watching right now. Jenna's really encouraged us to think about what could we do bigger, what could we do better, how could we put our own spin on something that's been around a long time while still kind of honoring the history of the program. So hopefully you're seeing a fun event tonight, maybe with just a new twist or two that hasn't been around in the past, and a lot of that credit's owed to Jenna. Something fun about Jenna that I think everyone in the room tonight would be specifically interested in is she promised to buy drinks for the entire room. So kudos to Jenna right now, and thank her for buying your drinks for the evening.